Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I'm Chris Vannini, and I'm ashamed of my performance in Bunch Formation Bowl 2 on College Football 26.
Yeah, I'm David Ubben, and I'm hoping that the UNC Hulu show comes back to life this year. Bobby rides again for like the 11th time now. Life's good if you can call ball plays, Chris.
Yeah, Bobby Petrino, North Carolina may be happening. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the USC Notre Dame breakup. We're going to talk about the Michigan search, answer a lot of your questions in the mailbag. We're going to quiz David on some more sponsors for bowl games for our midweek pre-Christmas episode here. Kind of just a grab bag full of stuff, but we do have to start with me acknowledging that David defeated me 35-0 in College Football 26. And much like Tulane, I gotta say, and even James Madison maybe, the game was more competitive than the final score. Would you concede that? This is really kind of lame talking points by me, but it was a weird. David's. We're in this media College Football 26 dynasty. David's South Carolina. I'm Oklahoma. He didn't do any offseason recruiting, so he has no quarterbacks.
My offense sucks.
And yet he was still able to do that. Like, we have this weird situation where, I get down to he fumbles the ball in the red zone. Both my guys don't pick it up. His guy picks it up and picks up 8 yards. I fumble at the goal line. I miss a field goal. I only had a couple of busts, but just couldn't string things together. I tried to make you drive the length of the field, and many times you could. I spent 3 hours legitimately practicing before we played, and I think I lost worse than the previous game, even though I liked my team. Like, I hate
my team, and I beat you by a lot. So I will say we're in year 3 of our dynasty. The first year we scrapped after 1 year because we were all G5 teams. And I was Virginia Tech, and then we had 3-star teams. We made the resurrected Pac-12, and we scrapped it. We went to the SEC last year. So this is year 3. And I think this is the first shutout I've had, Chris, against a user. I've had a couple against the computer. They're hard to pull off, I will say. And once we turned the corner into the fourth quarter, I did go into shutout protection mode. You're never really playing that way early on. You got to be aggressive. You got to force action. And if you give up something, you give up something. But a
couple plays go the other way. It's like a 28-7 more respectful.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, once you start getting from behind, because I lost my first regular season game in the SEC version of this dynasty last week, and when you get you turn over early, you get down, then you kind of have to play from behind. It's hard to get stops on the game, so you're playing from behind and things change, and you got to do some things you wouldn't normally do, and so it can snowball, I will say. But I didn't feel like it was child's play. I didn't feel threatened necessarily, like I was going to lose the game, but I didn't feel like I was playing a novice. You know what you're doing.
I appreciate that. If you want to watch it, by the way, it's on the Bunch Formation YouTube channel. No commentary from us. We haven't figured out that technology yet. David, it's just David's
It can't be done.
screen, essentially. But it got almost 1,000 views total. There were a handful of people in there at the time. Appreciate everybody who watched it. I have vowed to my fans that we will be better the next time we're out there. Check out the show notes if you want to jump ahead in this episode. Send emails to bunchformationpod@gmail.com, and we're Bunch Formation on all your social media. Also, David, we also got a shout out some earned media the other day.
So earned media is huge for any fledgling show. And, we're just out here doing our job. But in the 29th edition of the Ebenezer Times, which is a Christmas letter that my dad has sent out for literally 29 years, we did get a shout out after the update that me and my family have moved to Charlotte. It said, speaking of Bunch, you can watch David's podcast under the name Bunch Formation on YouTube. My dad and my brother-in-law do watch the show, so shout out to them. I thought it was funny. It's a nice tip of the cap. But, earned media, you take what you can get. So shout out to the Ebenezer Times, the 29th edition.
29 years in a row.
Listen, I will say, so I appreciate my dad's faithfulness in writing it. Because, listen, I don't like the whole, we're going to do the weird glamour shot family card thing. We're going to shoot it in fall, and everybody's going to be all gussy. And then that's just what it is. It's happy, or Merry Christmas from the Smiths, whatever. I think that's kind of lame. So I appreciate the letter that's just hey, we have a big family. This is what everybody's done in the last year. This is everything that's happened in our family in the last year. And then here's some pictures from the last year, not like a special shoot. It's just like, here's what we've been doing. I think that's a much better, like, the problem with the Christmas card thing is when you do them is literally our busiest time of the year. So even as we've had kids, I have not started doing it, and my wife's not that into it. So we don't do it. But the letter is way better than the stupid Christmas card that, like, I don't think serves a purpose personally. Facebook exists.
I think that's actually really cool. You'll need to keep it going. Shout out to print journalism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the way. All right. Please leave us a 5-star review. We will read it on the show. And we got a couple more. So John Frazier writes, by far the best comprehensive college football podcast out there. Chris and David touch on a wide variety of topics and teams, not just talking about the biggest storylines or blue blood programs. Pony up. Thank you, John. And we got a follow-up from Matt Raven, whose review we read in the last episode, the guy who moved from the UK to get into college football. So he wrote, hi, Chris and David. Following up on the review you read earlier in the week, I used to watch the NFL in the UK sometimes, but my main sports to watch were soccer, rugby, and cricket. But while I have always enjoyed watching American football, college football has become my main sport to follow over the last couple of years for a few reasons. Number one, as well as being high quality, it seems genuinely unpredictable because of the turnover of players and the fact they're all young. For instance, I spent a lot of time in the preseason listening to people talk about how good LSU, Clemson, Texas, and Penn State were going to be this year. Side note, who would do that? Number two, while NIL has clearly changed the landscape a lot, it nonetheless seems to me that the sport has the strongest connection between the team and its fans in the U.S. That reminds me of soccer back home. And number three, it's played on Saturdays, which feels to me like the right time and lets me throw tailgates, etc. It's the social part of it that is huge for me. And he supports Georgia through his wife, who grew up north of Atlanta, basically. So that was really interesting. Like, we've had a lot of international or expat people listen in. So I find that fascinating how a Brit came over and fell in love with college football. And we've talked about it a few times during the year. We talked about the Ireland game. There's a game going to London next year. So thanks for the clarification, Matt, and hope you're enjoying college football. And thank you for finding the show.
It's a wild world. There's a lot of things about college football that, like, would be interesting to not even necessarily experience for the first time, but like find out happened for the first time. Like the Baylor UNLV game in 1999. If you weren't aware of the kick six, I feel like when you learn of all the pieces of history that literally shifted in a moment in the kick six, which I do think is the single most consequential and greatest play in the history of college football. These things that happened, like, if you hadn't lived them, you almost wouldn't believe that they did occur, but they did. And new college football fans are interesting because I have a lot of institutional knowledge from this. I've covered this sport for almost 20 years now and written about followed the sport for 30 something years now. So new college football fans are fascinating to me because it's a little bit like a sociological experiment.
But even as someone who has followed the sport forever, I'm always learning about some new thing that happened. Like there's so much. Oh, I didn't know that South Carolina had this happen to them in the 70s or something like that. There's always something, and that's why the lore is never ending, basically, in college football. And that's pretty fun. Speaking of lore and ending, let's jump into the media scrum.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
USC and Notre Dame have paused their series, I guess, indefinitely, over them not agreeing to continue the series. Notre Dame on Monday immediately added a home and home with BYU for the next 2 years. So no USC Notre Dame for the next 2 years, maybe not until 2030 at the earliest for that. This sucks. We know that USC didn't want to play the game later in the year. Lincoln Riley publicly talked about not even sure if he wanted to play the game at all. But AD Jen Cohen had said recently they don't want to play it later in the year because of conference play and all this kind of stuff. And so we've known that that's been going on. And then after this news comes out and everybody's piling on USC and Keyshawn Johnson's releasing a video criticizing USC and Lincoln Riley and all of them for that, USC kind of through back channels puts out that the playoff memorandum of understanding with Notre Dame is a key reason they didn't come to a final agreement. And this, so, okay, before I explain the memorandum of understanding and all that kind of stuff, regardless of the reasons, we'll get into the reasons in a moment. But David, what was your reaction to this series officially going on pause?
People don't want this. Nobody seems to want this. And it seems like Jen Cohen, not a USC person, Lincoln Riley, not a USC person, have enraged a lot of like born and bred like Trojans for life by making this decision. People that are USC lifers want this game. You have a trophy, for crying out loud. If you have a trophy between these two programs, I generally think those games should be played basically at all costs. And I think they're overestimating the costs, underrating the benefits. I get that the Big Ten is what it is. You're going into that situation. The schedule is, certainly tougher than it probably was in the old Pac-12, and that has to be a factor as well. But when that is a factor, I don't know how you describe this as anything other than cowardly and antithetical to the entire point of college football, which is to play your rivals.
And USC would probably argue that's their biggest rival, that or UCLA. I mean, they're different kinds of things, but this is one of the few like national rivalries in the sport. It's two completely different regions of the country. They'd play in Notre Dame early in the season. They'd play at USC later in the season. So the weather was not bad for either situation. The history, these are two of the most historic programs of all time. The national championships, the Heisman trophies, like so many players and seasons and teams were defined by what you did in this game en route to, a national championship or whatever. And it's another just big chip away at college football and its tradition and the meaning of all of this. And I hate it. And for all the flack we were giving Notre Dame, for the bowl opt out or the playoff or whatever, most everybody is on your side on this one. We're on your side on this one. And credit to Notre Dame for immediately scheduling BYU. Like I said, like they're filling that game with another very good opponent. I wish Notre Dame and BYU would have played this year in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but whatever, better late than never. That's still going to be a really good team next year. But the reasons behind this now, USC in the Big Ten wants an easier schedule so it can make the playoff. USC has never made the playoff, and now they're making scheduling decisions clearly because of what this means for the playoff. And for example, the USC football schedule next year includes games against Indiana, who we assume should be pretty good again, Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington. It's like a pretty tough schedule. And the argument is let's do the Indiana thing, 3 easy non-conference games. And I hate this, and I think it's incredibly short-sighted. I do not think you're going to selectively schedule your way into the playoff because schedules are too fluky. We don't know what's going to be a good schedule and what's not. 2 years ago when Indiana made the playoff at 11-1, they were scheduled to play Michigan and Washington, who played each other in the national championship game the year before. But then, whoops, they both had coaching changes, and now the teams aren't as good, and that happened. Miami last year, 10-2, did not make the playoff. They weren't even the first team out. They were behind a 9-3 Alabama team. This year's Miami did play a big non-conference game against Notre Dame, won that game. That's why they're in the field. Yep. If they hadn't won that game, Notre Dame would be in instead of Miami. So, like, I really hate this idea that we're going to try to like ease up on certain things and give up such a tradition. You've already moved to the freaking Big Ten, man, and blew up the Pac-12. Now you're just you blew up all those connections. Now you're blowing up the Notre Dame rivalry and the connections there. I think everybody hates what this is going on. And credit to the former USC players who are kind of calling this out too. Like it's cowardice. It's what it is. Like, just say you're scared of playing the game. That's what it is. And if you want to say we want to make the schedule easier, that's fine. Just say that's the reason. But that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is the MOU that next year, if we have a 12-team playoff or a 14 playoff, which we're probably not going to, 14, if Notre Dame is ranked in the top 12 of a 12-team field or the top 14 of a 14-team field, Notre Dame would automatically be in, because next year is the start of the new playoff contract. And spring 2024, when the Big Ten and the SEC started doing all the saber rattling and threatening to kind of do their own thing, everybody else agreed, okay, Big Ten, SEC, you guys can take the majority of the money. You guys can set the format of the playoff field in the future, as long as we have protections for the 5 highest conference champions, and Notre Dame has a threshold as well. And that last part really went under the radar, I think. And it's become this whole thing now over the past couple of weeks where you got some people saying, well, we shouldn't play Notre Dame. Don't schedule them in a way that'll help them get into the top 12 and then they're automatically in anyway. And that's what USC sources are saying. Basically, we didn't know about this and we don't want to put us in a situation where, let's say USC, Notre Dame are close at the end of the year. USC's 11, 10-2, 11-1, whatever, and Notre Dame is behind them. Say USC's 11, Notre Dame's 12. Notre Dame gets in, a G5 gets in, and USC is out. That is the very specific scenario, essentially, that USC is using to kind of spin this. Now, if you talk to people in the Big Ten, as I have and my colleagues have, they will say, we told everybody about this. Everybody agreed to it. This is not a surprise. And so this Notre Dame thing over the past couple of weeks has kind of blown up to where a lot of administrators are like, we didn't know about this. And my question is, how did you not know about it? Your leagues are supposed to have told you, and we reported it at the time anyway. I remember because I was on vacation at a beach house and spent half my day on the phone for this story, talking to people at Notre Dame, locking down that they have this threshold. I think everybody forgot about it because we were talking college football playoff expansion so much and we assumed it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, if we go to 16, it doesn't matter because they don't have an agreement on that. The protections go away for the most part. But David, what have you made of this whole MOU blow up?
I also don't like reading legal documents and the fine print. So from a human perspective, honestly, I respect it. But when your job's on the line, when you are generally, I don't think there's going to be an AD in the Big Ten that makes less than $1 million. When you're generally making 7 figures, this is literally what you're paid to do, or at least paid to pay someone else to do and give you the Cliff's Notes. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for it, but I also I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't know why people are so freaked out about this. It's not like they're saying well, if Notre Dame goes 9-3, period, they're in. It's in the top 12, you make the playoff, guarantee the top 12. It's that's a tiny little bump, maybe.
They would have been in this year.
Yeah, they would have been in this year because they finished 11, right? I believe that's right. Yeah. They finished 11 in CFP. So it's a tiny little bump that helps you a little bit. But for all the people who want to scream at the top of their lungs, join a conference, which I don't think Notre Dame necessarily needs to. It's well, when you don't have an auto bid, you probably need something, and this is that thing. And so I don't know. I don't have that big of a problem with it. Again, this is probably why it was signed into action. But I just think people are really overstating the significance of it, first of all.
And the window is going to be so short. We may still expand to 16 teams for next year. And
probably
if not,
but
then
maybe.
Probably.
Although now, I wonder if this is an impetus to maybe spur some of that.
Correct. That may reignite kind of the conversation stuff. But I remember talking to people.
We should lay out real quick, Chris, before we go. The reason why this playoff expansion is stuck in the mud is because obviously this is a big talking point in the offseason. The Big Ten is stuck on this stupid auto bid plan that literally nobody wants. Every other conference wants the 5-11 plan, wants to earn it on the field. And the Big Ten has been in this sort of weird 4-4-2-2 plan that nobody hates, everybody makes fun of.
But or a bigger one that's 4-4-4-4, 24 team type of deal.
Yeah. I think that one, we don't need to get into that. Nobody likes that. But I think if there was something to push the Big Ten off of this, this seems like a useful thing, perhaps.
So a year and a half ago, I asked people, but to that point, why do the Big Ten and SEC have all this power? We've been talking about that. Everybody has known for the past year that we've talked about the Big Ten and the SEC, they get to control it. Did nobody remember why? Or how how that happened?
No, short memories, Chris. Yeah.
Apparently. And I remember talking to people at the time. I said, why did you give Notre Dame this special treatment? Like why would you not? And the feeling is the SEC doesn't want to push Notre Dame into the Big Ten, where it would make a lot of sense. So the SEC is willing to give Notre Dame what it wants. And the Big Ten is as well, because it's kind of stuck with Notre Dame's still kind of stuck with the ACC for a little bit at the moment. And so everybody's like, all right, it's kind of like a Cold War situation where like Notre Dame is the nukes. And for all the people who don't like that Notre Dame is in a conference, I get that. But they're not the ones who were different. There used to be dozens of independent teams, Penn State, Miami, all this kind of stuff. They went and joined conferences. Notre Dame did not. But Notre Dame is kind of the thing holding full out realignment war from happening, because they are the biggest crown jewel still left over. So I've always kind of supported Notre Dame for being independent, because I think it's one of the few things keeping college football still what it is and keeping everything else from blowing up. And they've always said, if we have a path to the postseason, if we have a home for our non-conference sports, and if we have a good enough TV deal, we don't need to join a conference. And they do.
Can UConn get one of these deals too?
UConn's, I don't know what they want to do. They love being in the Big East in basketball, even though the Big East is very good.
Last year, when Washington State was running up wins early in the season, but didn't have any path to an auto bid, I did feel bad for them, because it became evident that they were going to have to go like 12-0. And even then, it was not a guarantee they were going to make the 12-team playoffs. So, UConn, make it happen.
So this MOU thing is one of the strangest college football stories I can remember, really, where it's like, how did you not know this? Did literally everybody forget about this until Pete Bavacqua said it to Yahoo Sports a couple of weeks ago? Like, for the schools and the administrators who say they didn't know, I don't know how you didn't know if we knew in the media.
Well, I
we'd
think part of it is, Chris, part of it is it wasn't that big of a deal. And
it didn't feel like it at the time. It didn't.
And then you lived out the scenario where it would have flipped, where they're out this year, but if this had been in place, they go in. I think it's just that simple of like, it's the same thing with the ACC tiebreaker. Well, surely we'll never get to the 7th tiebreaker, so who cares if we have this thing that's going to put a 5-loss to? Well, then you get into it and you're like, well, we got to change this now. And so it's like, I think it's just that scenario. It's like, it's not going to happen. Like, there's a very small window where this thing comes in where it's a controversial situation, which I don't even think would have been that controversial this year necessarily. Maybe a little bit. But like, you've lived out the scenario and now people are freaking out. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I talk about this all the time, but having a 4-team playoff and 5 major conferences for about a decade, every time a conference missed the playoff, it was an off-season long existential crisis. As somebody who covered the Big 12 for some of that period, it was very stark of like, what are we going to do? The sky is falling. We missed the playoff. We got to change everything about everything. We got to institute a championship game. We got to change how we distribute the revenue. And it's like, chill.
And now we have the expanded playoff, and we're having the same arguments and same freakouts over teams that have 2+ losses. People think it's bad now. It used to be so much worse, but we'll see where this goes. It sucks that USC Notre Dame is going away. I don't think anybody really likes this. I think it's pretty cowardly on Notre Dame.
I went to the game this year.
USC's part.
Boy, it's spicy, man. Like, it is. That's a rivalry that has a lot more like hate in it than I think people recognize.
And by the way,
it started by the way just because Notre Dame and their coaches wanted to take their wives out to the West Coast when it got cold in Indiana. So again, respect. I too feel that same inclination. So shout out to Notre Dame. And
you've got the play like a champion magnet over there.
Yeah.
I got that experience. Notre Dame but Notre Dame's schedule, by the way, next year, they kind of had to schedule BYU because their schedule, if they don't make the playoff next year, if Marcus Freeman takes the Giants job or something, who knows? But their schedule is easy. The only notable games that I think they could have any trouble with, they've got Miami at home. They've got SMU at home, I guess, and you've got at BYU. That's it. You got 4 true road games. This schedule is set up for like 11-1 is like your floor. So I think Notre Dame's going to be in the playoff competing for a national championship anyway next year. But man, just it really is annoying how much of how much this has happened. Moving over to the Michigan search, the only real update that we've started to kind of hear early in the week is that, at least as of recording on Tuesday, Jeff Brom becoming a name to potentially watch there, the head coach at Louisville, who turned down the Penn State job, but is in conversations with what I think is becoming an increasingly desperate Michigan. I think he'd make a lot of sense. The question was always, could you get him to leave his alma mater? Remember, he took Purdue to the Big Ten championship and then left for Louisville to come home. That's his home. He loves it there. He's got a good contract. But Michigan just won a national championship a couple of years ago. And so that could be one. Maybe Eli Drinkwitz, probably not. But there's, we talked about before, but bridge coaching with Biff Poggi or even Kyle Whittingham, I don't think is a good idea. But I don't know. Jeff Brom, keep an eye on that one.
I will say I'm struck. We've done some reporting about this in our outlet. Katie Strang, Austin Meek, Bruce Feldman had a great story this week. There was another story in the Detroit News kind of about what had been happening in Michigan over the last year and a half. Seemed like a lot of people asleep at the wheel. So the fact that the search has kind of gone sideways, I can't say that I'm super surprised, but like a lot of the Sharon Moore stuff, I don't think anybody thought it would get this dark and this explosive, but it seems to me like pretty obvious that behind the scenes, if you didn't think it was going to be working, if you didn't think it was going to blow up in one way or another very soon, like that seems like you weren't really paying attention.
Well, do you see the comments from Biff, by the way, who said, like, for the last 5 years, this has been a malfunctioning organization. And this is a guy who was
well, that's more relating to the scandals. I mean, the on-field stuff was the on-field stuff. So it is
right. But that's what I'm saying. And this guy, yes, former failed Charlotte head coach, sleeveless shirts and all that. He's a former hedge fund manager too. Like this guy comes from the business world and that kind of stuff as well. Mm-hmm. And credit to him, I guess, for someone who's kind of angling for the job to not just talk about how great everything is, to like be pretty blunt about it. He was there for all of that or most of that as well. So,
well, he's pretty unfiltered. I watched. Yeah. Have you seen the HBO documentary about him?
I've not. When he was at St. Francis, right?
When he was at St. Francis, HBO did a show, and I watched it because I was covering Tennessee at the time. I got an advance copy, and 2 Tennessee players, Dom Bailey and somebody else, were coming over from St. Francis, and I was like, well, I'll just watch it and see if they get any story ideas or just kind of get a feel for where they're coming from. It's a pretty interesting program. I mean, basically just like kind of self-funded this really like powerful program in Baltimore and developed some really good relationships. And obviously it's kind of like an advisor to Jim Harbaugh in the proudest era of the program since Lloyd Carr. So it's been interesting, but Jeff Brom's not going to get anybody excited, but he's a competent coach. I think he would have some success there. But I wonder if there is an element of you do the bridge coach, not because you can't necessarily find a coach in this market, but because the athletic department has a lot of things that need to change before you can launch like a real search. So I lean toward maybe that option if you can't have Jeff Brom, rather than like sign some coach that was your 11th choice to like a 5-year deal and be stuck in this buyout if it doesn't work in 2 or 3 years.
And if you have to go down some other options, I mean, Manny Diaz at Duke, I don't think would be a terrible option. You know who I actually think would be a great fit? I talked to him on Monday at the Frisco Bowl press conference. Dan Mullen. He did a really good job at UNLV this year. He said publicly he's staying. He's not taking another job. He's tweeted about it. He's got his quarterback and his running back coming back next year. I talked to him afterward. He's like, I'm really happy. Like, I've got a lot of money saved up from media and my Florida buyout and all this stuff. Like, I'm very happy where I am. And yeah, people have reached out to me during the season, after the season, but he seems pretty happy. But man, like, dude's won a lot of games, a lot of places. And if your knock on him was he's not a good recruiter, that was a different world now. You put the Michigan money cannon behind him, and that'll make anybody a pretty good recruiter. Look what Sharon Moore was doing. So I don't. Yeah. That's just me throwing it out there after talking to Dan Mullen and realizing like he could have fit. But I think if it's not Jeff Brom, or I don't know, I think there's some other options that if Brom says no, you could circle back to that. I don't think would be terrible. So we will see on that. Stay tuned to The Athletic for more on the Michigan search. Last coaching one here. You mentioned it in the opening. North Carolina working toward hiring Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator.
The one and only.
And I think the first reaction from a lot of people was, oh, these are two older coaches who seem to like younger women, which is true. My first reaction was, I think this would be a really good hire.
Well, I said that at the time when he came back to Arkansas. It's like, yeah, this is crazy. Like Sam Pittman, this is crazy.
Yes.
But credit to Sam Pittman at the time. He made a misguided hire in Dan Enos, cut bait after like 8 games. And I think there's a lot of coaches who wouldn't have done that. Their ego would not have allowed them to bring Bobby Petrino in. But he proved himself again. Like he inherited an offense, I think it was 116th. And they were number 10 and number 11 in yards per play the last 2 years. That ain't easy to do at Arkansas. Obviously, North Carolina needs a lot of help. I didn't think the Freddie Kitchens hire made a lot of sense at the time. He was a holdover from the old Michigan or from the old North Carolina staff. I think he was coaching tight ends. And it's like, I think Bill Belichick, like, is a combination of familiarity and NFL experience. And it's like, what gave you the idea that like Freddie Kitchens was going to set the world on fire as an offensive coordinator at the college level? It didn't really make sense when you're putting together your staff. But this is an outside move. I don't know what their relationship is like. I'm sure they've, run across each other in certain circles. But like, in terms of building a program, maintaining a program, the way the bottom fell out at Louisville post Lamar Jackson, and even, in some ways during Lamar Jackson's time, gives you a lot of questions about him as a program builder. But as a guy who calls ball plays, he seems to still be pretty proven. I mean, he was decent at Missouri State. Obviously, what he did at Arkansas was good. He was okay at Texas A&M under Jimbo. He is who he is. He also left a job before Jimbo after 3 weeks. You're not going to find a lot of coaches who would put him on their Mount Rushmore of their favorite people in the world. But like, if you can coach ball plays, you're going to find a job. And I think that's the Bobby Petrino story at this point.
Yeah, he's a good offensive mind. He just is. And this year's North Carolina team under Bill Belichick, they got better defensively. They became a pretty decent unit defensively. The offense was putrid. And so if you bring in a guy who knows what to do and knows how to identify players and a former college football head coach, he knows how to run a program and do things that Michael Lombardi seems to not know how to do. I think that would be great. Could it end in disaster? I don't know. It's always possible with Bobby Petrino, but I think that would work. It's not official. They're just working toward it. I did look up to see if when Petrino spent that year as the Falcons coach, if he coached against Belichick. He did not. They did not coach the year, but they probably met each other
at the meetings, coaches
NFL meetings or whatever. So I don't know. We'll see what that, but that might be, of all the moves like that Bill Belichick will have made, that's where I'm like, that might be the smartest thing you do. So we'll come back to that.
I think that's true.
If it happens. All right. We got a bunch of questions from you guys. So let's jump into the mailbag.
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
Comment here from Rashik, who's responding to your cold Eugene sports bar story that we told at the end of the last episode. I had wondered, was there simply no like AC there because it's in the Pacific Northwest? Rashik says, hey, Chris and David, in my experience, although a lot of houses don't have AC, I think more are starting to. I'd say most businesses do. I personally can't ever remember going to a restaurant that doesn't. However, I guess I could see that since they're less common in houses, maybe a business might not have one. He also said Oregon is a dump of a state, so I wouldn't put it past them because Rashik is from Seattle, Washington. So
I gotta be honest, when I read that, I thought he was gonna be from the South, but he's not.
I was asking like people from the Pacific Northwest, like the idea that David's in a restaurant and they're keeping the doors open when it's 40 degrees because it's too hot in the kitchen. Is that an AC HVAC situation up there? And we have.
What I think that's a OSHA violation more than anything else. Shout out to those cooks. You should be contacting a lawyer, maybe.
But you said like the building wasn't that old, so we don't have an answer for why it was like that. If anybody knows, please reach out, punchformation@gmail.com. Comment from John S on Spotify. Hey guys, love the pod. Want to say Merry Christmas and ask, how likely is it that in the coming years, players have multiple spells at the same program? With the beginning of the CFP Journeyman, this was something that piqued my interest. Happy holidays, gents, and thanks for a great year of college football talk. We have seen this a little bit.
Hunter
There
Johnson
was
is the most famous example.
Hunter Johnson, former, I think, 5-star recruit, was at Clemson, then went to Northwestern, then back to Clemson. The receiver at Arkansas State, Corey Rucker, did that, went to South Carolina for a year, came back. We've had some people change in the spring and then come back. So, like, we were thinking about that with like Bo Perbula, potentially, but maybe not.
I think. I don't think it'll be popular, but I think a lot of it is: are you burning bridges on the way out? How are you negotiating? Is your agent leave a bad taste in some of the coaches' mouths where they're like, "I'm done with that guy"? You hear a lot of stories of people that leave in the right way and don't leave in the right way. And I think that will color how it is. And those exits are kind of unpredictable. You never really know. But I think that is what is going to influence more than anything. Even if you're a great player, if you were a turd on the way out with how you handled going in the portal with the previous coaching staff, they're not going to want to put up with that.
Will say, though, we are seeing this a lot more with coaches recently than we ever had.
Like
we just mentioned like
high percentage.
Bobby Petrino going back to Arkansas. That was a surprise. We didn't talk about it, I don't think, on the show. Will Muschamp is going back to Texas as
Coach
defensive coordinator. He was once the DC and the head coach in waiting there before he took the Florida job. And that was such a
long time.
That was such a clean cut by Texas, by the way. The press release comes out. You're not even sure if it's real that they fired Pete Kwiatkowski, the DC. In comes Will Muschamp. And I think that makes a lot of sense because Will has been at Georgia. And what team has given Texas the most problems? It's Georgia. So maybe that's a kind of a move there by Sark, but he went back. We have Zach Arnett, former DC and head coach at Mississippi State, replaced Mike Leach when Mike Leach died. He's now back this year, I believe, as defensive coordinator. And
that's right.
The strangest one of all, Brent Pry, head coach at Virginia Tech the last couple of years, fired early in the season, is back this coming year, as the defensive coordinator once again for James Franklin, who he knows very well. The two of them have been very close. And I want to dig into that more. I want to check, is Brent Pry moving? Is he staying in the same head coach's house? Is it weird moving your stuff to another office and not being in that head office you had the last couple of years? But that's a new one as well. So we're starting to see it with coaches. Maybe we do start seeing it with players where they're kind of like free agents and they can leave but come back at some point. I don't necessarily think that's good, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Hoosier114 on Twitter. Jimbo and Coach O made it clear they wanted back in. Surprised that it seems like they got very little traction even for G5 gigs? ? With Jimbo, I don't think he wanted a G5 job. I don't think he wants to. I think he thinks he's better than that, basically, and he might be. He's won a national championship. He's coached.
Might have to prove it.
He's got $90 million in buyout. He was doing ACC Network this year. That was kind of like a clear sign he wanted to get back in. But I don't know if Jimbo really wanted to as much. And then with Coach O, he was in on Oregon State. He wanted Tulane. He didn't get much traction. I think people are still unsure about him kind of personality-wise in this new college football era as well. He had a pretty high-profile divorce recently. Sometimes that kind of personal stuff can influence, do you really want that guy running the face of your program? We've seen the videos of him at the wedding, in the summer, shirtless, having a great time. We all love it. That's great. But if you're an AD, are you sure if you want to bring that in? I'm not totally sure. But
do we think he's going to land back in some role on Lane's staff at LSU?
Well, his buyout just wrapped up, half of which was going to his wife. He went to court over it. But the buyout from LSU is about to end. So those paychecks are about to stop coming, which is why it's not a surprise you saw him wanting to get back in. So I would think he probably lands somewhere. He said he'd coach D-line, or something like that. I think there's definitely an addition you could do. But head coach, didn't get as much traction. But I think those are kind of some of the reasons why different type of guys. Ed Helinski, good or bad? Who's your biggest NFL surprise teams this season? We don't talk a lot of NFL on here, obviously a lot, but I'm going to say Well, it was going to be, it's got to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? I think they're in first place now. Travis Hunter.
Liam Cohen, friend of the show. We have a lot of faith in Liam. No.
Okay, you don't know the definition of friend of the show, by the way. Friend of the show means they've been on the show, not that you know them or that
they've been on this. They've been on not this show, but like this version of the show. Yeah.
Was he? Was Liam Cohen when he was at Kentucky?
Yeah. Maybe you were. Maybe it was when Ari.
I wasn't on this. It must have been
maybe
you and Ari.
Maybe, but yeah, he came on the show. It was good. He was, Liam. I knew him a little bit, and good dude. And I'm not surprised. He seems well suited for the NFL. So
okay, I retract that. Then he is a there
you go.
He is a canonical friend of the show, basically.
Yeah, spiritual friend of the show. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I think the Jaguars got to be my biggest surprise. Anyone's from you? You're the guy who watches. I don't watch.
I watch the NFL, but I mostly just watch like my fantasy team. So I'm not like I turn on Red Zone and I work and I like keep an eye on it. I would say, I think I'd point to the Chiefs probably as the surprise.
Yeah.
Team, right. Like I don't know how you have Patrick Mahomes in his prime and miss the playoffs. That seems hard to do, but
I gotta say, like, I hate the way that they went out because, like, you want a dynasty to be toppled, Like, you want someone to take the crown. And
Joe Burrow to break through, Josh Allen to break through,
like
Lamar to break through.
For this to end with just missing the playoffs, it's like in pro wrestling. In pro wrestling, you build up the guy, so when he loses, you're crowning the next guy. It's called giving him the rub. No one's getting the rub from the Chiefs just kind of falling apart here. So that's what's kind of disappointing. Like I rooted against the Chiefs and wanted them to lose, but I wanted someone to take it from them. And that's just kind of going out.
It seems unfair, by the way, that the Patriots now seemingly have like a franchise quarterback again. That's tough. Those 2 years in the wilderness were tough.
As someone who's grown up in a division with the Packers who just moved from franchise QB to franchise QB, I get it.
I'm still looking side-eye at Jordan Love. I'm not all in on the Jordan Love experience.
Got a question here from Derek DeVries. Thoughts on the status of future CFP format likelihood? He's got some different ideas here. I think we kind of talked about this before, but I think ideally mine would be moving the playoff up a week so you can do the full first round without competition from the NFL. I'm okay with 5 plus 11. I don't really want to get into the AQ stuff. I'm fine with the committee. I think, David, you were pretty much on that same point too, right?
Yeah. Among the options that are actually going to happen, yes. If we're drawing it up, I hate 16. But yeah, the 5-11, I like the committee. I don't want computers to come back. And I'd like to move it earlier. I would like to see the championship game be closer to January 1st, but
yes, well, that would be their thing. And we'll talk about this next week, but credit to Dan Lanning, by the way, who said, I think on Monday, that the CFP system is messed up. They should be playing that Orange Bowl game, Oregon versus Texas Tech. He's like, that game should be played at Texas Tech. They should be getting a home field advantage. And it's like, yeah.
I don't know. He's right, first of all. Second of all, that feels like a easy points for, I don't know. I'm not sure what the
he's only saying it because it's not happening. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe
that's
could be
about right.
Could be. We'll preview the Orange Bowl. We'll do our big college football preview episode on Monday.
But what I will say among college football fans, what coach has like fewer haters? I feel like Dan Lanning, in terms of like successful coach that everyone seems to respect and like, he's got to be pretty high on the list. Like. He's up there. He seems like a very beloved psycho in a lot of ways, and I mean that as a term of endearment.
Yeah,
that I think people are like, I wish that guy was my head coach.
Are there real Kurt Cignetti haters?
Yeah, because he was so outspoken. Like he was flexing before they did anything. Yeah, I think there's a lot of Kurt Cignetti haters for sure. I think the combination of the big talk coming in. The basketball game stuff and all that, and Michigan sucks and Purdue sucks, all that stuff. And then flaming out, losing in a way that seems to suggest that their haters last year, their skeptics last year were correct. I think yes, I think he's lost a lot of haters this year, but I think there's still a lot of people who don't like Cignetti for sure.
All right, last one here. This one's from me, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it. Favorite Christmas movies. Now, I've got a clear 2, and I do this traditionally either with family or by myself if I'm not with family, which is my top 2. Christmas Eve night, I watched number 2, which is The Santa Claus, featuring Tim Allen. As you get older, there's so many little quips from Tim Allen that you didn't get as a kid that you get as an adult, and it's amazing. 90s movies, by the way.
Do you just like that person as a Detroiter?
You know, we went to the same high school, Tim Allen.
Yeah,
and me.
There you go.
See high school. But no, like 90s movies are full of that. There's like little jokes in there that are for the adults that the kids don't get, and we don't really have that anymore, I feel like. But the Santa Claus, where Tim Allen, Santa falls off the roof, he has to become Santa Claus. Classic. I watch it all the time. It's so good. And then on Christmas Day, I have to watch Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jake Lloyd as the kid, where he's the dad who works at the toy store and he's not there for his family and he has to find the Turbo Man doll. Sinbad puts in an all-time performance in that movie.
What happened to Sinbad? House Guest is a classic film. Like, Sinbad was one of the funniest people in the 90s, and then I feel like he's gone now.
He's also
on the same island with Coolio.
He showed up in an episode of Atlanta in 2022, apparently, as himself, but that was television. He's in a 2025 movie called Straw. He was in Good Burger 2, but that was 10 years between movies. I don't know what exactly his... Looks like he had a stroke maybe in 2020, but he's recovering. I'm not sure, but he's from another guy from Michigan too. But man, Sinbad in Jingle All the Way is incredible. And I have an actual Turbo Man doll, like in the box.
That's strong.
Walmart, a couple of years ago, our friend Max Olson tipped me off. He's like, Walmart's selling these. And so I got one. I got one for my brother. It was great. I watch that movie every Christmas. It's so funny. Put their cookie down. She's out back petting Ted.
They're good. Those are good picks.
This is a bomb. The bomb. God, I love that movie. What about you? What are your favorite Christmas movies?
So, the Home Alone 1 and 2. I don't recognize any of the other ones. I've watched all the other ones. They're not good. The most recent one was like sort of watchable, but certainly not good, I would say. But 1 and 2 were classics. And then, so I had never actually watched It's a Wonderful Life until 2 years ago. Have you seen it?
I've consumed it through Seth Davis's tweets every Christmas.
Yeah, well, don't do that. Just you might mix in some green juice in there in the middle. But the no. So I hadn't actually sat down and watched the full thing, and this was when my wife bought a miniature kitchen in our old house. We did bring it to the new house, but I live tweeted my attempt to build this thing.
For your kid.
She didn't buy me a mini kitchen for our playroom. No. But I started at about 9 p.m. I finished at about 2:30 a.m. But in the middle of that, I turned on It's a Wonderful Life. Incredible movie. Like, some of the classic movies, you really don't know like how well they age, and you go back and watch, and you're like, that actually I think is kind of overrated. It's a Wonderful Life, like legitimately an incredible movie. So if you have not watched it, you should watch it. It is really, really good, and don't just follow Seth Davis's tweets. So that one's probably up there. As far as like, we don't have so we're still trying to developing our traditions because we've moved a little bit. We have little kids, and so a lot of it is surviving the day and all of that stuff of trying to figure out what we want to do. But my wife and I usually keep it pretty low key on presents. I did buy her a countertop nugget ice machine. She's a big ice chewer. Again, all of my advice. So we got she's big into nugget ice. I'm not that much into it. I have some in this cup, but I did get her a nugget ice maker. So we have our own nugget ice at the house. She's very happy about that. She's been trying that out. But we kind of keep it pretty low key. My family was not a big like presents family. Like when you were a kid, you got presents. And then when you hit like 16 or 18, then like we kind of just do a trade among the adults because we have a huge family. It's expensive for everybody. It's annoying. Kind of ruins the holiday a little bit if you're getting like 30 presents for everybody. So we kept it pretty simple. And that's served us pretty well, I think. My wife takes a different approach, but it's, You live and you learn and you adjust. But that would be kind of what Christmas looks like in our family.
Yeah, it's kind of changed. Every year is different. I never know because of our jobs. We're so often working over the holidays, and it's hard to
that
plan
kind of
stuff in
complicates
advance.
things. It's usually, I will say that the playoff has switched things a little bit because there's not like a full bowl week a lot of the times. Because usually, like as soon as Christmas is over, generally you're like traveling, but that's not necessarily the case.
Because media day for the Cotton Bowl is Monday. It's just like a couple days after Christmas, and I'm always never sure, like, because I'm always covering that game, try to be around, but it is what it is. One other movie, by the way, A Christmas Story. My mom loves that movie. She watches it every year.
My wife hates it. I like it. It's okay.
It terrifies me because when I was a kid, the deep voice narrator thing just terrified me. With that and with the Wonder Years, like those things, they scared me as a child. That narrator voice or whatever. And so like Christmas Stories like that for me. But by the way, speaking of Walmart, I did see the Red Ranger, whatever BB gun thing. They're selling that off of the movie this year. So it's a good market for that. So that's our favorite Christmas movie. Send us your favorites, bunchformationpod@gmail.com. If you think I'm crazy for liking Jingle All the Way, I love it. All right, we got
those are interesting. Those are interesting Christmas movie selections. They're both like there's not a lot of Christmas movies that I like hate. My wife hates Christmas Vacation.
What?
Yeah, she doesn't like Clark Griswold.
Last year I think I was alone for Christmas. So I spent the day like watching a bunch of Christmas movies. I like the Grinch, the Charlie Brown one. I fell asleep watching Miracle on 34th Street. Spirited. Did you see Spirited, by the way?
Spirited is good. Spirited might be the best Christmas movie made in the last decade, probably.
Yeah, because I mean it's a couple years old. It's on Apple. Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, and then
the finale is great. The finale, I think about that. I get that song in my head.
Good twist. Yeah, and a good twist. Probably over the last like 20 years are Elf and Spirited, like the only two like great new Christmas movies.
Yeah, probably. I might be forgetting one, but I think that's right.
All right. The other thing we're getting for gifts this weekend is the wonderful bowl season. We got a lot of bowl games to get to, and to do that, we go into the game recaps or game previews.
This is for all the Tostitos.
We're going to run through these pretty quickly. Friday, the Game Above Sports Bowl, Central Michigan versus Northwestern, 1:00 Eastern, ESPN. David, first question, where is the Game Above Sports Bowl?
I have no idea. I'm very familiar with this company, though. They build bunk beds with gaming consoles actually installed in. It's a very cool product. I'll probably buy one for our kids when they get older, but great idea. Very cool thing. So, but I don't know where the game is now.
The game is at Ford Field in Detroit.
Okay, sure.
The old Motor City Bowl, which I went to a bunch as a kid.
Okay. What happened to Little Caesars? We're not doing Little Caesars anymore?
I don't know. This was the Quick Lane Bowl for a while there. Also, by the way, I'm pretty sure you're completely wrong about Game Above Sports.
No, they're not. That's right.
It's I looked this up. I wrote it down. It's a privately held global investment company backed by Capstone Holdings that is focused on sports, entertainment, and giving.
You know what I find to be a troubling college football tradition is how many bowl sponsors are either like war machines or shady investment companies of like, I've never heard of you and you probably have like $1 billion in assets. That seems not great.
Northwestern, a 10.5 point favorite here. That feels like a lot of points. I might take this. I might take Central Michigan to cover this and maybe even win outright.
It's a home game, right? So
it is. I've been to Central Michigan to Purdue, played a great Little Caesars Bowl. I think it was one time.
I will say, Chris, one of my great shames in life is I have probably been to about 40 states, never been to the state of Michigan. I got to make this happen.
You've never been to the state? How do I know?
I don't know. When would I have gone? You don't necessarily vacation in Detroit traditionally.
You vacation in Michigan, you absolutely do.
But I haven't. I just haven't covered a ton of Big Ten. That's like the one league where I haven't done a ton of stuff. So No, never been to Michigan. We got it. We'll get that soon.
Who else is from Michigan? Keegan-Michael Key, who I'm currently watching on my TV screen. He's there at the Boca Raton Bowl that we previewed in the last episode. All right, we got the Rate Bowl. David, where is the Rate Bowl?
I don't know. I thought it was Guaranteed Rate Bowl. What happened to the Guaranteed? Did they lose the Guaranteed?
It used to be the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. It is now the Rate Bowl. This is the game at Chase Field, Arizona. This is your former Insight Bowl. This is your former Copper Bowl, Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, the original Cheez-It Bowl, Insight.com Bowl. This might be the bowl with the most names, like in its history. And by the way, it's New Mexico versus Minnesota, too, by the way.
Interesting. So 2 things with this. 1, stop playing games in baseball stadiums. I hate it. But 2, I've been to Chase Field, actually. I went there. There's a sports bar in the stadium.
Oh, boy.
You don't have to buy. I hadn't thought about this, actually. You don't have to buy tickets to. And I went there during the World Baseball Classic, but you can watch the game from the sports bar. It's like I forget the name of the restaurant. It's like some baseball pun. But I was like, this is a cool stadium because it was a cool, it was cool. I enjoyed it. It's a long story of how I ended up there. But
what are we grading that sports bar out of 10?
It was fine. I mean, it's obviously a little overpriced because you're in a baseball stadium and you're in downtown Phoenix, but all things considered, it's fine. I wasn't there. I think I was watching some of the play-in games for March Madness, I believe. And then obviously kind of paying attention to the baseball game, but it was fine. It was like
Give me a number. What's the grade?
6.5, 7 out of 10.
6, 7, 6, 7. Okay.
I gotta look up the name of this. It was a very dumb pun.
Well, David, real quick, what is guaranteed rate?
I assume it's mortgages. It's all mortgages.
Yes, it continues to. It is the residential mortgage company. I almost used guaranteed rate when I was buying my house. We ended up going with Rocket Mortgage instead. But yes, that is what.
Oh, I found the name of this place. It was not a pun. It's Cold Beers and Cheeseburgers is the name of it.
That's as least pun as you could possibly get.
Yeah, I know. I think there was another place there that did have a pun that I thought about going with, didn't go. But Cold Beers and Cheeseburgers, very cool place. Again, you can just watch the baseball game at this place without a
As for the game itself, New Mexico versus Minnesota, game's at 4:30 Eastern, ESPN, after the game above Sports Bowl. New Mexico, big year, 9-3. Minnesota, pretty solid enough year. What's your pick?
We are putting all of our eggs in the Jason Eck basket, who I also can't believe did not get a job this year. But Jason Eck gets it done here, wins outright as a dog.
Well, I think Jason Eck it was kind of a weird carousel for that type of stuff, but one more year like that, and you might be the Wisconsin coach a year from now. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go New Mexico because that's my heart. I wrote a story about these guys off of media days and how they had 170 new players over the last 2 years because of all the coaching changes. They lost all their good players. Everybody left, and they go 9-3. Unbelievable year. tied for first or second place in the Mountain West. Only missed out because the tiebreakers. I'm gonna go New Mexico as well. We're riding the Lobos here. All right. The Servpro First Responder Bowl. David, where is this bowl?
Is it still in Dallas?
It is. It's at SMU's stadium. Gerald.
Okay, I thought it was at the Cotton Bowl, but yeah. As far as Servpro, I've seen the trucks around there. It's heavily green, but I don't know what. I think it's like an exterminator.
They are restoration after fire damage, water damage, that type of stuff.
All right.
You've seen the commercials, surely, right? I see them all the time.
I mean,
it never even happened. That's the tagline.
I mean, I wouldn't recognize it off the top of my head, but if you showed me a commercial, I'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that." But I just think of the trucks, and I know their logo is green. But
I do think this used to be the Heart of Dallas Bowl, Zaxby's. I went to one, or one. It might have been the first. By the way, might have been the first year at the Athletic. Utah versus West Virginia, pretty good matchup. The day after Christmas in the Cotton Bowl, so the empty state fairgrounds, and it was raining and it was cold and it was the day after Christmas and there was nobody there. Utah won the game, but it's one of the weirdest scenes I've ever seen. This game,
one of the last Cotton Bowls at the actual Cotton Bowl.
Maybe.
Missouri, Arkansas in 2009. It was freezing cold, and I got the flu on the way back home. But it was a fun game.
FIU versus UTSA. This is day after Christmas again. 8 o'clock Eastern, ESPN. UTSA is a 6-point favorite. I'm going to go UTSA because I think an American team, the talent level is just a higher level than what you got at FIU. But FIU had a really good season. I think 7-5, I think, in Willie Simmons' first year.
Mm-hmm.
Really good debut year. Pitbull's got to be loving it. But I'm going to go UTSA wins and covers.
Yeah, not playing at the home tree is a problem for the Roadrunners. So we're going to go Florida International. Willie Simmons keeps it rolling.
It's a good point. Their bowl record under
not
Trailer,
good.
I don't think
not
it's great.
Good.
But it's still in Texas-ish. I'll take it. On Saturday, the Go Bowling Military Bowl. Actually, forgot to put this in my notes. David, where is this game?
I have no idea. Is it in DC?
It is in it's at Navy. That's right. It's at Navy, Annapolis.
I'm doing okay
Maryland.
on these. All right.
You're doing okay. What is Go Bowling?
I mean, if it's not a pro bowling like lobbying group, I don't know what it would be. I have no clue. Yes,
it's basically that. It's a consumer facing brand for the U.S. bowling industry, acting as a central hub for finding centers, getting deals, learning tips, and connecting people with the fun of bowling. There's no natural.
Listen,
there's no more natural.
Does this organization
sponsor.
need to exist?
Yes, because there's no better sponsor for bowl season than bowling. Although I don't know if this is the best sponsor for the military bowl, but you mix those things together. We got Pitt versus ECU games at 11 a.m. Eastern, ESPN. Pitt's a 10-point favorite. David, who do you got?
It sounds like most of Pitt's team's going to be playing, I think, right? And they got
I think so. I think that's why they're big favorite.
So I think I'll roll with Pitt to get it done here. ECU, good season, but not good enough to beat Pitt.
I'll go Pitt as well. I think ECU's got a OC change. I don't remember if Baker left or not, but I'll go Pitt as well. Good year for both teams, really. I think really stepped forward. And Mason Heinzel, as far as we know, I mean, so far Pitt has kept OC Cade Bell and the QB Mason Heinzel. And if you're able to keep those into next year, that'd be big for Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
The Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State versus Clemson. David, you already know, I imagine, where the Pinstripe Bowl is.
So, yes, I appreciate Bad Boy Mowers, their commitment to sponsoring bowl games, because they had the one in Tampa for a long time, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so graduating, if you want to call it that, to the Pinstripe Bowl. The Pinstripe Bowl, the next time I hear somebody say something positive about their experience in the Pinstripe Bowl will be the last time. I remember I was covering the Big 12 when K-State went to this game, and their people were incredulous. This was late in the Bill Snyder tenure. I don't know if I think Jake Waters is on that team, guys. I think he's like the QB coach at Penn State now, isn't he? Anyway, but they went to the Pinstripe Bowl, and their people were like, we had a huge snowstorm. We got stuck in our hotel. We had to do our, I think 2 practices in a hotel ballroom instead of because they had to get buses out to, there's not a lot of places you can do practice fields in Manhattan. So you had to take buses to one of the other boroughs. And they couldn't get out, so they were like, that's our only choice. And then the weather's bad. And then my understanding is that the press box is outdoor at this game also, which is
correct.
Traditionally under freezing. So they give you hats and gloves, but I've heard of reporter equipment malfunctioning because it's just not meant to be. Laptops are not meant to be used at 20 degrees. And it's been in some issues with this game. So Godspeed to Penn State and Clemson, 2 teams that we'll be remembering this season for a long time.
Do you know what is Bad Boy Mowers?
It's just mowers.
Correct. Yep. Manufacturer. They make mowers, tractors, other stuff. Headquartered in Arkansas, by the way.
I did not. Which I feel like I should have.
Speaking of weird sponsors, there's not a lot of places to mow lawns in New York City and the Bronx.
This is true.
Is what it is. Penn State versus Clemson, noon Eastern, ABC. Clemson, a 3-point favorite. If you had told me before the season we were getting Penn State Clemson in a bowl game, how fired up, or a bowl game or a playoff game or whatever, how fired up would we have been for that? These are 2 teams who dramatically underachieved. Penn State's had a coaching change midway through the year, quarterback injuries, all that kind of stuff. Clemson only a 3-point favorite. I haven't actually looked to see who's opting out necessarily of this game. But do you think Clemson wants to be up there in the cold of New York City for this game? What's your pick?
I don't think either of these teams want to be there. This could be an ugly game, but I'll go Clemson reluctantly.
I'll go Penn State. I think they win one for Terry Smith. Okay. The Wasabi Fenway Bowl, which is at Fenway Park in Boston. David, what is wasabi?
So I learned a couple years ago, it's not the condiment. I believe it's some sort of shocker investment of some kind. Like it's like a self stock seller, like an E-Trade grandchild, basically.
It's a Boston-based cloud storage company.
Okay.
So all right. Technology, but
I just knew it wasn't the condiment and not related to the condiment in any way.
Yes, it should be. It should be. We have bowling. We got potatoes sponsoring. Wasabi, the condiment, should be sponsoring. Anyway,
I agree.
UConn versus Army, games at 2:15 Eastern, ESPN. Army is a 9.5-point favorite. UConn, interim coaches and all that kind of stuff. In these types of situations, service academy teams are the last teams you want to play because you need to be focused and ready for that. And I've seen too many times. We saw it last year when Navy beat Oklahoma in the bowl game. If your team doesn't want to be there, a service academy will make sure you definitely don't want to be there. I'm going to go Army.
Yes. I'm with you on this. Especially considering, like, I don't know if UConn, maybe they play Navy. I think they do. So maybe they've done some off-season work, but it's the programs that don't do off-season work against these options that like run into some issues. I distinctly recall Army hanging 70 on a Dana Holgorsen Houston team not that long ago.
Yep, I covered that game. No, that wasn't. No, that was Major Applewhite, and that's when he got fired.
Okay, all right. Well, that'll do it. Give it up 70. That'll do it.
That was the Fort Worth Military Bowl game. I forget which one that's called, but Armed Forces Bowl. All right, we got the Pop-Tarts Bowl, Georgia Tech versus BYU. We know what Pop-Tarts are. We will be looking forward to the pop. I saw they got the sprinkles on the helmet. Notre Dame, that's probably why they opted out, right?
Flourish. I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They sent care packages to a bunch of media people last year. I'd like to get some more. It was a good care package. It had actual Pop-Tarts in it, had some stickers, had some very nice, like, Gooder sunglasses in there. Listen, the Pop-Tarts Bowl people understand that, like, you got to have fun and you got to make this thing, like, attractive for people. Give people a reason to tune in outside of just the football, because the football is becoming increasingly less high stakes. And watching a giant pastry be consumed by that and the Duke's Mayo Bowl are sort of the goats of gimmicks. And I'm going to be watching the Pop-Tarts Bowl again, specifically for those reasons. And
Notre Dame is too good for it. As for the game itself, Georgia Tech, BYU a 4.5-point favorite. BYU Notre Dame here would have been awesome, man. Like, that would have been really fun. Anyway, I'm going to go BYU. I actually think Georgia Tech's a solid team, but BYU in bowl games, we saw what they did to Colorado last year. They usually finish seasons pretty strong. I'm going to go BYU wins.
I will also go with BYU here. I think they're a team that has a lot of pride and is still building towards something. Still kind of,
and the coach is coming back, all that kind of stuff. The Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, Fresno State versus Miami of Ohio. We know this game's in Arizona. It's at the University of Arizona. We know who Snoop Dogg is. This game is at 4:30 Eastern on the CW, not an ESPN game. This is the CW. Okay. This is a game that used to be on Barstool. I believe this is going to be the last one of these. I think this is going to be the last Arizona Bowl because it's not part of the ESPN type of group. Fresno State, a 5.5-point favorite over Miami of Ohio. Both teams, okay years. Ultimately, Miami of Ohio made the MAC championship game. Fresno State had a decent first year under first-year head coach Matt Entz. Who's your pick?
So I was going, well, in general, I'm going to take Miami of Ohio here. I think they ugly this game up. This is going to be a low-scoring game. But I was curious why. I assumed that Arizona, which is not a state that I would have thought would be one of the 40 states that have legalized marijuana, would have, but they do, because I was going to wonder why Snoop Dogg was hosting a game in a state where it was not legal. But it is in Arizona. That might be the most shocking thing that I have learned in some time. Maybe it's just the older folks. I don't know. I didn't think that was going to be one of the states that did have legalized pot. But shout out to the Snoop Dogg.
This used to be the Gin and Juice Bowl as well. They've done a couple other things. I'm going to go Fresno State.
This gimmick is not really working for me. Snoop Dogg doesn't read college football really in any way.
I think if it was honestly, I think if it was on ESPN, it might work better. But it's sometimes hard to find the game. The Barstool thing didn't quite work, but the games have been actually pretty good. The last several of these have actually been pretty good games. I'm going to go Fresno State. We have the Isleta, New Mexico Bowl. David, what is Isleta?
Is that a knockoff of Athleta, the female exercise activewear company?
You are very off. It's basically Isleta Resort. It's a resort with picturesque landscapes, lakes, golf course, spa, steakhouse, entertainment showroom, and nightclub. Isleta itself is an unincorporated community in New Mexico. So that is what that one is. This is played at New Mexico's Stadium, University of New Mexico. North Texas versus San Diego State. Game's at 5:45 Eastern, ESPN. North Texas, a 3.5-point favorite. I believe last I checked, Drew Mestamaker was playing in the bowl game, but there is no Eric Morris, interim coaches. They're still favored by a bit. What's your pick?
I'm going to go with San Diego State. If you are going in the portal and you've got at least probably $2 million coming to you and your coach is gone, I don't know why you're playing in this game. You're a Mestamaker. You probably should sit. As a college football enjoyer, I hope you don't. But as a person who would advise, like if Drew Mestamaker was my child, I would say you probably should not play in this game.
So our friend Antonio Morales, a San Diego State alum, has kind of been very annoyed by this SDSU season. Despite having Sean Lewis, they're a defense-first team once again. So that offense against the defense should be a fun matchup. I'm going to go North Texas. I think Drew Mestamaker wants to put on a show in his last game. Just be careful. Don't get hurt. Nobody wants to see that.
Please don't get hurt, Drew Mestamaker. I can't. My heart can't take that.
The Taxslayer Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, one of the longest bowls there is. Virginia versus Missouri. David, what is Taxslayer?
Boy, you'd hate to be an accountant trying to go to that game. Taxslayer just helps people do their taxes. It's like a cooler version of what is it, Jackson Hewitt or whatever.
Do you use an accountant or do you use one of these things?
No, I know how to do my own. I do my own. I do my own taxes. I know how to do it.
Ooh,
like I didn't when I was younger. I would just go somewhere and they'd do it, but like it's not that complicated, and you figure it out. And then once you get a little bit older, no, I do my own. But I like Missouri here. Matt Zoller's breakthrough game.
I use TurboTax, and actually, Texas was one of the states the IRS could let you do it through the IRS for free, but I think that got rolled back for whatever reason. Game's at 7:30 Eastern, ABC. Missouri 4-point favorite. I'm going to go Virginia here. I'll go Virginia. They've had a good season, finishing on a good note. Missouri's kind of, you had Pribula, right?
Mm-hmm.
God,
yes, Pribula.
I said it wrong earlier.
No, it's Pribula. It's Pribula. Yeah. You're
out.
confusing me. It's Pribula.
Yeah. I'm going to go Virginia. And then lastly, the Kinders Texas Bowl in Houston. I feel like LSU's always in this game for some reason. Houston versus LSU, 9:15 Eastern, ESPN. David, what is Kinders?
Are these the barbecue sauce people?
These are the barbecue sauce people.
That's got to be a new sponsor because I don't remember them ever sponsoring a bowl.
They are Houston's a 2.5-point favorite. LSU's moving into the Lane Kiffin era. What's your pick?
Well, my real pick is a request, actually. I have one request for this game, and that is that if this game ends and I don't have barbecue sauce coming from a giant cooler on one of these coaches, we got problems. And I don't know that this game needs to exist without that. But I will go with LSU here.
I'm going to go LSU as well. I think they've had a lot of opt-outs. And this was the LSU bowl game a number of years ago where they had like 40 scholarship guys on the team. I don't think it's that bad this year.
Didn't they play A&M in that game?
I'm not sure. I'm going to go LSU as well, though. Just I think they have enough guys. All right, time to end the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
I'm going to go with Bruce Gradkowski.
Okay.
I mentioned earlier about Motor City Bowls I attended as a kid in Detroit, and one of those was including Toledo, where Bruce Gradkowski led the Toledo Rockets to a loss against Dan Orlovsky's UConn Huskies, if I recall correctly. Let me pull this up here. Not that one. Yep. Toledo lost that game 39-10. But Bruce Gradkowski was a lot of fun to watch at Toledo. I actually saw a couple of his games in person as a kid. He actually played in the NFL for longer than you would expect. He hung around there for a while. He is currently a offensive assistant with Detroit Lions at that same Ford Field. He was previously the OC for the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Okay.
NFL.
Okay. I like it.
Who's your guy?
I'm going to go with, we've been watching Louisville play some football while we're recording this show. And I'm going to recognize Michael Bush, former running back. I believe he played under Petrino. I could be wrong about those dates. I think that was Petrino era. Either way, 39 career touchdowns, 2,500 career rushing yards. Great player, just like a fun Louisville. Those offenses, man, were really fun back in the day. And Michael Bush, big guy, had a nice little NFL career as well. But I remember him always as a Louisville Cardinal. So shout out to Michael Bush.
Yes, he did play under Petrino. He was also a quarterback in high school. Actually, moved around a little bit. And
interesting.
There was one other thing I had on him. Oh, you continue to say Louisville wrong like an incredible amount of times on this show.
I'm sorry. We were talking about this.
We got a comment.
I don't know what to tell people. This was a thing on our previous show. It was not a bit. My brain, I don't know any other way to say it. And so I believe Louisville is the correct way that I've been bullied into saying. But when I'm just speaking normally, it's always going to be Louisville. And I'm sorry, but
what you do is you almost get rid of the middle sound. So it's like it's not Louisville, it's Louisville. Like that. You just kind of say it quickly and don't think about it. Louisville.
Sorry. Louisville.
All right.
I apologize.
And nomination from listener Adam Lewis, who nominates Agim Shabai, former Michigan State wide receiver in the early 2000s under John L. Smith.
Smile!
I do not remember this guy.
I remember him because it was 2003. John L's one good year at Michigan State. He had a catch and run for a long touchdown against Michigan. And Brent Musburger on the call goes, "It's Agim Shabai, and it's bye-bye."
That's a good call.
To the end zone. Good call by Brent Musburger. Agim Shabai.
So two things, Chris. I have learned one, that he doesn't have a Wikipedia page, and two,
no, he doesn't.
That he's white, and I almost passed out.
Yeah, he entered the supplemental draft after being ineligible for the 2005 season. I'm not sure why he was ineligible. Let me look up this story here. No, the story on ESPN's been deleted, so I don't. Injuries and academic issues is what it was. But I remember him for that one play, basically.
That is a deep cut. We are truly remembering some guy. I don't remember this guy.
A white guy. That's what the segment's for. I'm glad that call by Musburger has just been burned into my head. It's such a great call. But all right. Bruce Gradkowski, Michael Bush, Agim Shabai, we remember you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody. I hope you enjoy the holidays, enjoy the bowl games over the weekend. We will be back on Monday for our big quarterfinal college football preview. For David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening and watching Bunch Formation, and we will talk to you on Monday.
And please, bring back the turnover chain if you have any hope of beating Ohio State.
Makes a good stocking stuffer.
Yeah.